Imagine feeling something so deeply that it moves your entire body. Your chest tightens, your palms sweat, your heart races. But you can't explain why. Imagine being in love, or thinking you are, only to realize later it was need, not affection. Imagine looking at someone in pain and feeling nothing. Or feeling anger so intense it erupts before you even understand what triggered it. Imagine crying in silence, then asking yourself, what am I even crying for? We like to believe our emotions are truths, that they are real, raw, and pure like signals from the soul. But what if they're not? What if your sadness isn't yours, but your culture's? What if your anger was taught to you by a parent who never knew how to say I'm scared? What if every feeling you've ever had is less about the world and more about how you've been trained to see it? Imagine that your emotions are not just felt, but built, constructed, like a story, edited, like a film, framed, like a picture you never realized you were standing inside of. And if that's true, then what you feel might not be the whole story. It might not even be your story. So the question is, if your emotions are shaped by what you see, what happens when you learn to see differently? Let's begin. Two men walk down the same street. They see the same homeless man, sitting on the same corner, asking for the same thing, help. The first man is named Alexander. His jaw tightens as he approaches. He feels a wave of disgust, though he wouldn't admit it as such. His thoughts are precise, almost rehearsed. This is what happens when a man gives up. This is what happens when you make bad decisions and expect others to carry your consequences. No one handed Alexander anything growing up. He worked, fought, and built his life from the ground up. To him, giving that man money would be a betrayal of everything he believes in. It would reward weakness and punish responsibility. So he walks so. The second man is named Joseph. He slows down, not just in pace, but in presence. His chest aches not from pity, but from recognition. He sees a man left behind. A man who could have been anyone, maybe even himself, if luck had tilted the other way. Joseph grew up hearing stories of compassion, raised by parents who taught him that humanity was not measured by what we earned, but by what we gave. He reaches into his pocket and gives the man all he has, not to fix him, but to acknowledge him. Same street, same man, same request, but to vastly different reactions. Neither Alexander nor Joseph knows the truth about the homeless man. They don't know what led him there. They don't know his name, his pain, or his story. But both feel certain that their response is the right one. What they don't see is that their emotions were not born in that moment. They were shaped long before by books they read, by voices they trusted, by the invisible architecture of family, culture, and belief. And so their feelings are not facts. They are reflections of the world as it was given to them. You think you're feeling something real. A surge of anger, a drop of sadness, a rush of love. It feels immediate, spontaneous, even primal. But beneath the surface, something more complex is unfolding. Your emotions are not raw truths. They are constructions. Not built in the moment, but assembled over years from the stories you were told, the values you were taught, the wounds you never named. They rise not just from your body, but from the meanings your mind assigns to the world around you. You don't feel before you think. You feel because you think. When you see someone smile at you, the warmth you feel is not just about their expression, it's about how your brain interprets that smile. Is it kind? Is it fake? Is it flirtation or manipulation? Your past experiences answer the question before you consciously ask it. Your emotions are predictions. Your brain takes the present, filters it through the past, and generates a feeling. It's a shortcut, a guess, a lens. That tightness in your chest might be anxiety, or excitement, or suppressed rage. The body speaks in signals. But it's your interpretation, your cognitive labeling, that gives the feeling its name. This means that emotions are not passive experiences. They are active processes, And if they are processes, they can be reshaped. If they are stories, they can be rewritten. Understanding this doesn't make your emotions less valid. It makes them more powerful. Because once you realize they are constructed, you can begin to reconstruct them with awareness, with choice, with clarity. The truth is not what you feel. The truth is how you learn to feel. You feel your heart racing, your hands are trembling, your breath becomes shallow. And in that moment, you call it fear. But what if that same body could also mean excitement, or anger, or even love? Psychologists have long tried to answer a simple question. Where do emotions come from? William James believed you feel sad because you cry. That the body comes first, and emotion follows. Walter Cannon disagreed. He thought feelings and body responses happened together, side by side. Then came Schachter and Singer, who proposed something different. They said you only feel emotion once you explain what your body is doing. You feel a racing heart, and your mind fills in the blank. Am I afraid? Am I thrilled? The answer depends on what you believe is happening. And later, others like Zhejiang and Lazarus argued that sometimes the emotion appears even before thought. That your body can know faster than your mind can name. So who's right? They all are, in different ways. Because your brain doesn't feel in just one direction. Sometimes it reacts instantly, like a sudden jolt when you hear a crash in the dark. That's the low road, quick, unconscious, designed to keep you alive. Other times, it takes the long route. You reflect, you interpret, you assign meaning. That's the high road, slow, deliberate, built on memory and language. One protects, the other understands. But both are part of what makes you human. Your emotions are not always logical, they're not always fair, but they are always trying to tell you something. And if you learn to listen not just to the feeling, but to what shaped it, you begin to reclaim the story behind every heartbeat. You think you're seeing clearly, that what you feel reflects what is true, that your anger is justified, that your sadness is natural, that your fear makes sense. But emotions are not mirrors, they are lenses. They don't show you the world as it is, they show you the world as you are. From the moment you were born, you were taught how to feel. You were rewarded for some emotions and punished for others. You learned that boys shouldn't cry, that girls shouldn't raise their voice, that happiness makes you likable and grief makes others uncomfortable. None of this was personal. It was cultural. It was inherited. But over time, it became your truth. So now, when you feel envy, you think it's because someone else is ahead. But maybe it's because you were taught that success is a competition. When you feel rage, you think it's because something unfair happened. But maybe it's because there's a part of you that's been silenced for too long. Your nervous system responds to what it has learned to fear. Your language describes what it has been trained to name. And your thoughts follow the grooves carved by repetition. That doesn't make your emotions fake. It makes them familiar. And sometimes, familiarity feels like truth. But if you could change the lens, if you could ask not just what you feel, but why you were taught to feel it, you might begin to see a different world. Because the world hasn't changed, only your story about it has. And the emotion that once seemed inevitable is now just one of many possible perspectives. You've been told to control your emotions, to stay calm, to stay strong, to keep your feelings in check. But what if control is not the goal? What if mastery doesn't come from suppression, but from expansion? Mastery is not about feeling less. It's about feeling more precisely, more consciously, more truthfully. It's not about silencing anger, but understanding its voice. Not about avoiding sadness, but tracing its root. To master emotion is to make space between what happens and how you respond. Space to ask not just what am I feeling, but what is this feeling made of? Where did it begin? Whose voice lives inside it? What meaning have I been taught to assign to this signal? You begin to notice that what you call fear is sometimes a desire to protect. What you called love is sometimes a fear of being alone. What you called shame is often a story that was never yours to carry. Emotional mastery is not a performance. It's not about appearing stoic or enlightened. It's a practice of awareness, of sitting with the full range of your inner life without letting any single feeling define you. It is knowing that emotions pass, but the wisdom they carry can stay if you're listening. Think of a familiar image, for incomplete circles forming the illusion of a square. Technically, the square isn't there. Your brain fills in the missing shape because it recognizes the pattern. You've learned to see it. But if you had never seen a square before, that pattern would be meaningless. Emotion works the same way. You interpret sensations based on what you've learned to see. You feel what you've been conditioned to recognize. And sometimes, what you call reality is simply a habit of perception. Mastering emotion means developing new patterns. It means learning to see what was previously invisible. Not to erase the square, but to understand why it appeared in the first place. You don't need to become less emotional. You need to become more literate in the language your emotions speak. Because once you do, you don't just feel, you choose how to feel. And that is not control, that is freedom. There is no such thing as a pure emotion. Every feeling you've ever had was shaped by memory, by culture, by the stories you've been told. Alexander is not wrong for a feeling disgust. Joseph is not right for a feeling compassion. Each of them is simply reflecting the emotional world they were raised in, a world that defined for them what is strength, what is failure, what is love, what is weakness. They are not reacting to the homeless man. They are reacting to the meaning they have learned to attach to him. This is the architecture of emotion, invisible, inherited, powerful. But what if there was a third man, one who paused long enough to notice his reaction and question it? One who could hold to truths that once personal responsibility and social failure. One who could feel anger and still choose kindness. That man does not reject emotion, he expands it. He doesn't live by reflex, he lives by reflection. And that is the beginning of emotional freedom. Not choosing one side over another, but learning how to see the whole picture. Not letting go of what you feel, but learning to feel with clarity. To feel with depth, to feel with choice. So the next time you feel something, pause. Not to push it away or explain it too quickly, but to notice where it came from. Was it taught to you? Was it shaped by someone else's fear? Was it inherited from a place you've never questioned? You might be feeling sadness, but is it your sadness? Or a sadness passed down through generations? You might be feeling rage, but is it the kind that liberates? Or the kind that protects a wound you forgot existed? To feel is human, but to understand what you feel is freedom. Not every emotion deserves to drive your decisions. Not every reaction is rooted in truth. Some are echoes of old survival strategies. Some are shadows of beliefs you no longer need. Ask not just what you're feeling, but what it's asking of you, what it wants you to see, what it's trying to protect, what it's ready to let go. Because the emotion is not always the destination, sometimes it is the invitation. To go deeper, to look inward, to begin again. Thank you for looking.